What's going on, everybody? Happy November. October is over.
Kaput, as they say.
You will not be missed, October.
I'll miss it.
Oh, okay.
Thanksgiving, Halloween, Devil's Night.
This guy is Devil's Night. Welcome to 5-5 Live. That's Eric Kummel. I'm at Hempstead. And the final game of Worlds, you can even say the League of Legends season kind of wraps up on Sunday with another SKT Samsung Finals circa 2016. A long time ago, Eric, a full year ago.
Yeah, I totally forgotten the history, and I don't even remember who won. Don't even remember.
I'll freshen your memory.
Thanks.
It was SKT jumped out to a 2-0 lead,
Oh.
and then game 3 they were up like 10,000 gold. It looked like it was going to be one of the worst finals in World's history. It turned out to be one of the best because Samsung came storming back in that game with ambition, pulling off some crazy plays, some interesting Elder Drake steals. They won game 3, won game 4, and then game 5 was another doozy. But of course, in game 5, SKT, perfect elimination matches at Worlds, and that was their third World Championship. And now they're back to their third straight against Samsung once again. Will the result be different? Probably not, but who knows? Eric thinks it might be.
I definitely think it might.
But we'll get to predictions later. Initial thoughts on this?
I will say I was looking at the pick and bans from last year's Worlds. Very different. A lot of different picks going on there. Heavy focus on Jhin and Poppy. They were in the majority of games. I don't think you're seeing either of them in this series. But Cuve played a lot of tanks. A lot of, as I said, Poppy. And some Kennen. You know he loves his Kennen. His Kennen has not been great in this tournament. Usually these blowout losses Samsung suffered. Basically 2 in the knockout stage. He's on Kennen on those games. So we'll probably see Kennen at some point. But very different pick bans. Now it's all about the Ardent Sensor. But I mean, I think Samsung is the stronger looking team coming in. They looked much stronger in the knockout stage. Didn't need any game 5s, only dropped 1 game. And you look at last year, people were like, oh, pretty easy road for them, you know. Cloud9, H2K, those scrubby West teams, you just 6-0'd them and weren't really tested till the finals. You can't say that this year. Took out the tournament favorites and World Elite, who were looking really solid heading into those semis, so they beat some tough competition this time. Yeah,
they definitely did. And you mentioned that Jhin pick earlier. Definitely not going to be seeing that.
Oh, you never know. Great with Ardent Sensor.
A lot of people view him as maybe the worst AD carry in the current meta, so I would be very surprised, especially when you see guys like Ruler only playing Varus and Tristana, not even pulling up the Cogmel. So yeah, it's going to be a completely different series. Probably won't see any Victor coming out of Crown, even though I wouldn't hate it. But yeah, even now, one thing that stands to me is these two teams kind of play similar styles in what they like to do. Basically, Huni and Cuve on that island in the top lane, while the other 4 group together and just look for those flanks. Cuve and Huni both very good at finding those teleport plays. You've seen it before. You saw it in that Misfits series when Huni came in on that Jace, kind of locked it down in that final dragon fight there. So similar styles, but the champ selects vary a little bit. But the key matchup here, or at least one of the most interesting in my opinion, we'll start in the top lane, is this Huni versus Cuve matchup. You look at some of those champion pools, and Cuve trending a bit more towards the tanks, whereas Huni refuses to touch them, unless it's kind of a subpar one like Gnar, who does the damage in the split pushing role. But he's pulled out Gangplank. Jace has been basically permabanned from him. Camille was another big pick in this last series. And then you mentioned Cuve. A lot of Cannon, a lot of Shen, but his Gnar looked pretty nasty too up against World Elite.
Yeah, Gnar obviously going to be a hugely contested pick between these two guys. But I mean, there was a lot of criticism for SKT selecting Huni for this tournament. No subs, went with Blank and Peanut, but so far it's looked like a pretty solid choice. Blank and Peanut both struggled at times, so being able to sub them out has proved dividends for them. And Huni has actually been pretty solid, more so in the knockout stage, I think, than the group stage. Yeah, he basically had the game-winning play in both of these series. First, the Misfits won with that Jace play, and then he had the flash 3-man Gnar ultimate to close out against RNG. So he has shown that he can play these carry guys and carry a fight and also be these heavy engaged champions like Gnar. So he has looked pretty solid. I've been impressed with him throughout the tournament, and really these are probably the top 2 performances at Worlds from the top lane, because Khan, he didn't really have as much time as people would have thought to put forward at this tournament.
Though his Nasus was very nice.
it looked pretty solid. The 20-minute win, the old 0-0-1 or something, 1-0-0.
He wired a couple of guys. He got some kills in there.
Yeah, half health turrets with a Q,
But yeah, I mean, these two guys, they pretty much play on an island the entire game. Neither jungler gives them much attention.
Nope.
When you look at the proximity between them and their junglers, it's very limited. And you're not going to see Ambition go up there much. Peanut and Blank not going to help out Huni too much. And they often, other junglers would give them attention rather than, their own teammates help them out. They focus more on Faker and Crown and the bot lanes. So it's going to be pretty much a straight up 1v1 and a skill matchup across the board for this matchup. So if Cuve's going for that Gnar, like we've seen him kind of fade to in that World Elite series, go for the counter pick Kummel, which Huni's brought out now a couple times, and maybe get the upper edge. So I do think a lot of the early sway in these matchups are going to come down to that 1v1 in the top lane.
Yeah, and there will be a lot of 1v1, but also usually junglers aren't there, but it tends to be, at least with Huni, when there is jungle attention, he's going to get camped. And it's usually from the opposing team. You saw that in game 1 against RNG on that gangplank. He got ganked a lot. There was a lot of pressure there. He didn't have much vision, so he was punished quite a bit with that pick. So if there is some jungle pressure there, it's going to be there throughout the entire early game, and it's going to be in a matchup where they really want to set one of these guys behind.
Yeah, so again, it's going to be a pretty exciting matchup because, again, it's going to go one way or the other. One guy's going to get camped, and then Cube or Huni's going to get super far ahead, and that could turn the entire swing of it, especially when the TPs start coming into action. But we mentioned the junglers. And for SKT, we don't really know who it's going to be. You mentioned that Blank was struggling in that previous series against RNG. Peanut came in as a savior, but in the series before that, it was Peanut who was struggling, and then Blank came in as a savior to push SKT. So who do you think's going to start?
I assume Peanut will start because he was the one who looked the best before, but maybe the coaching staff will take the approach where, well, we know Peanut's been good. We'll see what Blank has. We'll start with the worst guy, and we'll see. But I think they'll start with Peanut, and if they fall down 2-1 like they have in every other series, then you're going to see Blank come in and have all the pressure on him. But I think they start with Peanut.
Yeah, that's the way I'm leaning too, even though probably won't matter because after they go down 2-1, as they always do, new guy comes in. Wow, you're great. Thanks. Just like Bengi did back in 2016 as well. It's crazy with these jungle swaps.
And the craziest part about all this jungle duo that SKT's had the last couple of years is they seem so close. You saw after that 5th game, Blank and Peanut were holding each other very intimately. I've never had someone hold me the way that Blank held Peanut after that 5th game. But even with Bengi and Blank, those guys seem super close. And there's usually when you're basically fighting for the same spot with a guy, there's going to be an inherent amount of hostility towards one another. But just the way this organization is run, this is why they've won so many championships, is just because these guys are so close. And they appreciate the hard work that each other put in, and they're only trying to make each other better, which is pretty cool to see.
Feels lonely, man, there.
Feels lonely, man. No one's holding my face up like that.
No one's holding your face. That's too bad. On the other side is Ambition, who's been hit or miss, on and off, but I gotta say in the playoffs, he's looked pretty good in that Longju series. Those 3 games on Sejuani really helping Crown in that mid lane, and then against World Elite, pretty consistent again across the board. And he's going up against, we're gonna say Peanut for now, anyways, for comparison's sake. And he's been a lot more active when it comes to the early game. That first blood percentage significantly higher. And for Peanut, you see that he's fallen behind quite early. But the strange thing to see for Peanut is the champions he's playing, because we know him back in the Rocks Tigers days as this guy who would love to get aggressive, and now he's playing Sejuani, Gragas, and Jarvan. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. The boring meta standard tanks, and obviously Ambition has all those guys too. I'd be pretty surprised if a Kha'Zix came out in any of these games in the finals. Maybe a Lee Sin, that's also a champion Peanut can play. Lee Sin seems to be, regardless of the meta, regardless of what's going on in the state of the game, Lee Sin's a champion that these guys can pick, because when he's played at the highest level, it doesn't matter what the comps are. You do an amazing insect play and get the AD carry into the opposing team, you're going to win the team fight. So maybe that's something that comes out, but I feel like it's just going to be those 3 main junglers, because there's so many other priority things that have to be banned. 1 or 2 of those guys are probably getting through every game. So I feel like Ambition obviously has been the more consistent one, so maybe give him a slight edge just because, yeah, SKT's been flip-flopping, it's a tough one to say, back and forth between those 2 junglers pretty much the whole tournament, although they did look a little better. Peanut, at least.
A little better. I do like Royal's strategy in that pick ban phase they had against SKT because they did a great job of making sure that they could first pick that Sejuani after having Gragas and Jarvan already banned out, so that it forced SKT onto the second tier junglers, which ended up being blank on Zac, which didn't fare too well overall for SKT. So that was a great pick ban. It didn't turn out all the way they wanted to because SKT adjusted in the later games, but early on it got them a nice edge having one of those top 3 junglers, probably the top tier in Sejuani over the Zac pick that SKT had to settle for.
Yeah, and the Zac was a little underwhelming.
It was.
Didn't look like it was doing a whole lot, and even that passive, a lot of the time he was blank, was just kind of caught out or in a tough spot that the passive wasn't really doing anything. Just delaying his death by a couple seconds.
Yeah. Let's jump to the mid lane, where we have Faker.
Anyone good?
Well, Faker's fine when it comes to mid lane.
Galio.
And he's facing Crown once again. And last Worlds we saw Crown get some 1v1s on Faker, Faker get some 1v1s on Crown. Both these guys are solid. People were concerned about Crown going into it, and at times you've seen him kind of get pressured out of the lane and get solo killed. But overall, I'd say that he's pretty solid, especially once it comes to the later stages. Once he gets out of that laning phase, man, he's good if he's on a champion like Talia, like Lissandra, something that can affect the map a bit more. Crown looks fantastic. But of course, if you're going to give Faker Galio every game, it might be a little tough.
I hope he doesn't get Galio every game, because that's going to be trouble for Samsung. Yeah, in terms of Crown, yeah, I know it feels like it was months ago, but in that Longshu series, he was getting dumpstered by BDD in some of these early games, getting solo killed, down 40, 50 CS, and then 20 minutes later, he's up CS over BDD. I don't know how he did those turnarounds, but I mean, clearly even when he's set behind early, it doesn't affect him throughout the game. So this is a very exciting matchup, even though the meta right now isn't really playing around and hard carrying from this mid lane. You saw the insane impact Faker had on that Galio. When he was still outputting, some of those games he still had the second most damage on his team behind the AD carry, or some it was pretty close with Bang, which is pretty insane for the Galio. Also why he's a busted champ.
Yeah,
thanks, Riot. But yeah, they obviously have a crossover on the main champion pool with you know, guys like Talia, Rise. I assume Faker's going to be playing Rise, as is tradition at every World Finals.
Yeah.
I believe he's played Rise in every one. I could be wrong. Maybe not Season 3.
Yeah, it's possible.
He's played a lot of Rise. I know he played it last year.
Old Rise with the old click snare, excuse me.
Yeah, I liked the bounce ult, where you just got one shot inside.
Yeah.
That was a fun one. There's basically been 10 different champions that have been Rise.
Yes.
Because he's been reworked so many times. But Crown kind of came into this whole tournament slumping, and even in the group stage, that him and Samsung as a whole, there were a lot of question marks around them. But yeah, again, in the knockout stage, he's really turned around. He's looked fantastic, and Faker's Faker. He's hard carried games 4 and 5, basically in the last 2 series for SKT, and the guy just doesn't like to lose, especially at Worlds.
Yeah, it's almost like he's not capable of losing, at least in the best of 5.
Not programmed to.
Yeah, he's not programmed to. He's not programmed to do much except for be good at League of Legends, because he's just emotionless during, after, before all these games.
And sometimes they gotta grease up his neck though.
Yeah,
get some kinks in there.
He's always, you know, cracking his neck. It's an unfortunate situation, but yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's gonna dominate this mid lane matchup. It's just not a meta where 1v1s are too common unless you get your hands on the Syndra or something. It's really just try to shove in, try to get mid priority, and then make a play down bot or up top. But expect a lot of Galio, expect a lot of Talia, and if there's Galio on one side, Malzahar on the other side, you just got to be on somebody who can kind of get across the map quick.
Yeah, now Faker obviously has a super deep champion pool, but he hasn't played Malzahar yet at this tournament. Crown played it a couple times. I'm sure Faker is more than capable of playing Malzahar. His ult is pretty hard to land, I will say that. But yeah, that'll be an interesting thing to see. And I mean, Faker did get 1v1 by the Rise, Yahoo's Rise.
Yeah, scrub.
Didn't even get a hit. Executed. Oh, Faker. Yeah, but didn't matter. Didn't have much impact on the game.
You're still Galio.
You're still Galio. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting matchup though.
It will be. Let's go to the bot lane. Bang against Ruler. Bang was another guy, kind of like Crown, who came in on one of these extended slumps. But in games 4 and 5, SKT was like, you know what? Bang, we're going to put you in a position to carry. And that's pretty much what he did on the Kog'Maw and the Caitlyn. Those were the picks he went to in those final games, and he looked pretty solid. But I guess for Bang, he's still someone who a little questionable. And Ruler coming in isn't this huge name AD carry, but all of a sudden he's been very consistent on this Varus, on this Tristana. He's only pulled out Twitch and Xayah very little amounts. It's pretty much been those two champions for the majority of the tournament for Ruler.
Yeah, and he has looked super solid on both of them. And I think coming into this final, even more so than last year, I think Ruler is playing way better than he was last year, and he is a legitimate threat. And you've seen at this tournament, you have to have a really solid AD carry, because if you don't, you're going to be losing out on an insane amount of damage with all these ardent sensors. So Ruler has definitely stepped up for Samsung, and I think it's pretty even between Bang and Ruler in this matchup. But then again, Bang does have that SKT factor, where as soon as the game is on the line, it's something you must win. It's a must-win team fight. They just seem to play at another level and position perfectly. They're playing as safe as they can, but getting aggressive at the right moments. But I might still give a slight edge to Ruler down there.
And the thing with Ruler is it's so surprising when you look at his champion pool, and he hasn't touched Kog'Maw. He has not played one of the most picked AD carries at this tournament in the Kog'Maw. There's insane damage once you get a couple items and you get the protection from your support. So it's interesting to see him be so productive on the Varus of all things. Something we don't consider to be a hyper carry, even though now the build is a little different. It's not that Legolas build where you would just get a bunch of hard AD and then shoot arrows into people. Now it's the Guinsoo's auto-attacky Varus, which does a lot of damage and also brings you engage with some of these team comps slack from time to time. So it's just interesting to see the comparison when you see Bang playing these Kog'Maws, these Twitches, the Caitlyn. You look at Ruler on the Varus and Tristana. So it's going to be interesting to see the champion overlay and the champ select and see what they prioritize. Maybe Samsung adjusts a little bit, or they'll keep with what's worked for them so far.
Yeah, and if you're SKT, you probably want to get Ruler off the Varus or the Tristana, ban one away, and then take one away and just see if he can prove that he can play other champions, because he hasn't had to in the knockout stage. I'm sure he's more than capable of doing it, but you might as well find out if he actually can, because you know he can play the Trist, you know he can play the Varus. Hey, what else he got?
What else he got?
What else he got?
Also interesting champion pools. Very different on the spectrum when you look at the support position between Wolf and Core JJ. JJ has been this guy who hasn't really gone crazy with his picks. He's been focusing on those core four, the Lulu, the Janna.
Core JJ,
wow.
nice.
Rakan and Tarek. It's pretty much the Ardent Sensor guys, plus Rakan with the good engage, and basically the pick when Xayah and Rakan are left open in that situation. And Wolf's been crazy. He's been going nuts with some of these things. Blitzcrank, Leona, Trundle, Tarek, Tahm Kench, Braum, and then of course he can still play the Lulu and the Janna. But he's been experimenting with pretty much everything under the sun.
Yeah, maybe stay away from that Blitz.
Yeah.
That was a little underwhelming in that game. But yeah, I think Core JJ has played the best Tarek of the tournament. He's looked fantastic on it. Obviously his Rakan won them, I would say, the game against World Elite when he played it with a 3-man engage. So those two champions, he's looked fantastic on starting team fights. He's had great timing on those Tarek ults. I mean, Lulu and Janna, anyone can play. Anyone can use the tornado to interrupt stuff with the ult. These guys are all so skilled. Anyone can play those guys. It's these more interesting, like a Leona or like these engaged guys that are where guys can stand out. And the Tahm Kench is kind of a Wolf special. I expect that to be seen in these finals when Bang is on. Something like the Kog'Maw, something that's immobile, just to have as that extra safety net, the Tahm Kench, to frog gulp him up, you know.
Especially if you get some other weird support picks coming from the other side. Tahm Kench, especially good against Thresh. You get hooked. Oh, see ya. I'm just going to eat you and walk away. Ash, Arrow, all those kind of hard engage tools that just get countered so easily by a Tahm Kench skill. It's not an ultimate. It has a pretty low cooldown.
It's got the old Yasuo Windwall effect, where a basic ability completely cancels out an ult. Seems fair.
So we will see if Core JJ gets a little crazy like Wolf does, or if Wolf goes back to the old boring ways of Janna and Lulu.
I'm sure we might see some completely standard games where they're playing those Ardent Sensors with your boring picks, and then whichever team loses that, do a Misfits special. Bring out something crazy, either in the bot lane or in the top lane. I could see Cuvée playing some weird stuff, maybe.
Yep.
Huni, maybe a Lucian top. Nice meme. Nice meme. No Lucians.
No, please.
No Lucians. But, I mean, across the board, there's no huge advantages for either of these guys. It's pretty even. Maybe the one thing is if Ambition continues to play as well as he did against Longzhu and a couple of the games against World Elite, I think he could probably take advantage of whoever's in the jungle for SKT because, yeah, Peanut clearly not as comfortable on these tanks as he is to playing these aggressive kind of carry-type junglers. Yeah. And Blank has been out of sorts at times, just seems to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. So I think Ambition could take advantage of that. Outside of that, it's pretty much a wash across the board. I mean, you give an edge to Faker because
he's fake.
He's Faker, but Ground's pretty fantastic. It's not much of an edge, and again, he's not 1v1ing them as Galio. So
no.
Maybe a small CS lead, that's about it. But Faker has been pretty fantastic about influencing the entire map, both his side lanes. Roaming as a Galio pre-6 and resulting in a kill is pretty insane.
His pre-15-minute statistics on Galio are pretty nuts. The amount of times he uses his ultimate, his teleports. He's not just sitting in this lane and chilling on that Galio, just clearing the way with Q. He's all over the map. So he definitely has an effect on pretty much every lane. Let's get to some quick predictions, Mr. Eric. I know earlier you kind of alluded to maybe SK2 not being this invulnerable force.
Well, they definitely don't look invulnerable.
Well, at the same time, they do in games 4 and 5.
They did. What is being invulnerable? I think invulnerable is going 3-0, never losing, not dropping a game. They look vulnerable. It's whether or not you can expose that vulnerability.
Can you stab the open wound?
That's right. Can you shoot the dragon with the little scale? You know that scene in The Hobbit? Really stupid that's how the dragon dies, by the way. Spoilers. Spoilers for The Hobbit. Book came out like 70 years
I'm sure a lot of people out there are just waiting to see The Hobbit right now, and you ruined it.
There's 3 movies, so hope you're ready for 10 hours of content. But I might take Samsung in this. I think they look like the stronger team coming in here. They're looking for vengeance from last split, and they look solid across the board, man. I think SKT they kind of look like what people expect SKT to look like. They've just looked so dominant in these games, and even when they're behind a few thousand, it doesn't really matter. I know SKT's had some comebacks too, but Samsung just looks dominant. I think they might take it 3-1.
My only concern is it's almost been too easy for Samsung when it comes to some of these games, because once they won Game 2 against World Elite, they pretty much kept the same strategy in the next 2 games, and we're just rolling over it. And part of that maybe is, man, they're really good at this one strategy, or maybe it's World Elite just didn't have an answer. But SKT, I'm sure, will have an answer to some of these things that Samsung are trying to roll out there. And if we haven't seen Samsung adapt yet, we haven't seen them try too many different things in a 5-game series. So I'm concerned about how they can adjust mid-series just because we haven't seen it yet. I'm sure they're able to. And on the other side of it, it's I don't know. Is it humanly possible to oust SKT at Worlds?
So far, no.
So far, no.
In the history of Worlds, it is not possible. But, I mean, these teams are so familiar with each other.
Yeah.
If it had been RNG or World Elite on either side, it would have been like, ooh, these guys aren't super experienced with one another. A lot of interesting things. But, yeah, these guys have scrimmed each other all the time. They've played 4 whole splits against each other with pretty much the same roster. So they're so accustomed to what the other team wants to do and how they want to do against that. So I don't think adapting is really an issue unless SKT has some crazy stuff coming out, like, I don't know what's crazier than Blitzcrank down there. They're going Jarvan support or something insane. So I feel like SKT, they've just had moments where they legitimately look concerned. You saw Bang after Game 3 against RNG. He was clearly distraught. I don't know if it was by his play or he just really thought they were in trouble. He rebounded in Games 4 and 5 and carried those games pretty well. And even Faker said when they were down against Misfits, there was a quote, he said, maybe it's our time to finally lose. Oh, that's some chinks in the armor if I've ever seen some. So I think this is maybe as vulnerable as SKT might be at a World Championship, unless there's some crazy roster changes. So now's the time, Samsung.
It's the time, but I don't think you can let it go 5. I think if it goes 5, it's pretty much wrapped up. See you later.
I think Samsung might win 4.
Well, that's perfectly possible. SKT's fallen behind 2-1 twice already in this series, in this tournament, so we'll see.
Keep the theme of Samsung has a dud Game 1 maybe.
Yeah.
Gets kind of clobbered, and then 3 in a row.
3 in a row.
Good night.
Wrap it up.
See you later. And then it's the end of the SKT dominance and the continuation of Samsung still winning the only other 2 worlds since season
Yeah.
2. So
Woohoo.
it's still dominant either way.
Yeah, it's just 2 teams now instead of 1, basically.
Yeah,
Well, should be a good series nonetheless.
it better be.
That's on Sunday at 3 in the morning, which is just fantastic.
Can't wait.
Yeah, can't wait till 3 in the morning on Sunday. All right. But anyway, send in your questions,
Yes.
and we will get to them at the end of the show. A couple more topics first, starting with the EULCS, because, you know, there was this whole Champions League thing where they wanted to have these 24 teams split into 4 different
24
regions
teams, man.
across Europe, and it was exciting. Wow, this is going to be some big stuff. And here Eric and I are like, wow, they got a lot of stuff to figure out, like getting all these teams together. Do people actually want to join all these different regions?
3 different broadcast crews.
Yeah, exactly. Where are you going to play? How do you split up these teams so that each league is somewhat interesting? Well, apparently due to logistic reasons, probably like the ones that Eric and I were somewhat concerned about, that is no longer going to be the thing. It's now going back to the normal best of 1 format. They're cutting the mid-season promotion relegation, so the 10 teams you see now are the 10 teams you're going to see for the entire year. So if there's a terrible one, get used to it because they're not going anywhere. And then they're getting rid of the challenger scene as well and replacing it with this pan-European tournament so they can breed EU talent rather than have all these imports come in on their challenger teams. I guess like in North America where there's Mad Life and Dandy chilling in the challenger series, which is a little confusing.
Can't get through.
And can't even make it to the LCS. Yeah, so a lot of change coming to EU now with franchising planned for 2019, apparently.
Yeah, well, I think basically Riot looked at, all those issues we mentioned. They probably looked at it and were like, oh my God, we can't do all that. And then people are sending them emails, angry emails, being like, we don't want this. This is stupid. We want blah, 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 blah. So clearly they heard the outcry from the community and the organizations. I mean, there were a lot of vocal H2K, the one I'm thinking of, that were like, do something, right, or we're done so.
Yeah.
So clearly they listened to that. They changed it back to similar formats to what they had. It is interesting they're just axing the challenger scene, basically, because, I mean, teams invest a lot of money. PSG invested a lot. Red Bull invested on their teams, and now it's like, well, sorry. You can keep guys if they're part of these certain countries, I guess, because that's how, it's going to be broken up as you're playing for your individual countries in there, which is an interesting approach to take. And the other thing that stood out to me is that Riot's saying, we're going to give more money. We're going to invest more money in the teams. We're going to pay you. Please stay in the EULCS. Please stay. And that's something that H2K, again, had mentioned, that they weren't being compensated enough for being in the EULCS. So Riot is just giving more money to satisfy them. Obviously, this is not a long-term solution. They're hoping that, this franchising is going to work in 2019. How many teams are going to want to be franchised in the EULCS by then? I feel like it's not going to be that many. It's not going to be as inviting as the NA one is.
Well, I mean, we got to wait and see. But as of right now, you got to imagine if you're the ELCS, they're kind of planning on what we see in North America with these NBA teams coming in, except the same thing with these soccer teams who have already shown some interest. You've seen PSG come in, Schalke as well.
They're not going to be happy that you just cut their challenger teams. Are they really going to want to come back?
No, they won't be thrilled, that's for sure. But I think PSG cut ties prior to the news. But either way, I mean, the ULCS is giving these teams some compensation. How much that is, I don't know, for cutting an entire thing that people just invested in, especially with Airbus as well. They were just like, we're putting together a nice League of Legends team.
Jokes.
Are you still? Because they just axed the Challenger Series and you can't get in unless you buy a spot from somebody, which I guess would potentially happen because I don't know what's up with the monkeys. And I know that NIP like completely blew up their league.
Yeah, they said goodbye, league. We got other esports. See ya.
But it's a little interesting. The full backpedal is mildly concerning. You got to imagine they had this full plan in place, and they're just like, well, let's go to best of ones, like North America.
But people are also happy because I would say the overall reception to that Champions League idea was rather negative. People were not big fans of it. It's too big a league. How are they going to deal with all this? There was already viewership numbers in decline last year at the EULCS. So what's going to happen when there's 24 teams and more than half of them people probably don't really care about and aren't going to tune into those games? So, I mean, keeping it the way it is should help their viewership. Best of ones. Again, I get why Riot's doing that. I think that probably will boost their viewership again because people don't want to sit through 3+ hours if it's 3 games for some of these best ofs. But, it just seems like they're not really sure what to do with EU at the moment. So they're trying to figure it out. Now that people have a positive reception somewhat from them going backwards. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we'll do this one. Definitely do this one. People aren't yelling at us.
Yeah, good.
Do that one.
It's like a stall tactic, just being like, we'll go to best of ones. 2019 though, franchising.
Yeah. Remember
right?
how you guys like NA franchising?
Yeah.
EU will do it.
In a year.
Be nice.
In a full year from now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Unless
we'll just
something
wait till
happens.
that.
So EU is still a pretty big question mark.
Question mark indeed. Staying in Europe, G2 looks like they're going to be letting some of their players explore free agency, most notably Sven and Mithy, two of the stars, that big bot lane for G2. Now allowed to explore their options. There was this weird kind of video where G2 Ocelot was talking to his players over Skype. Mithy couldn't hear anything he was saying and basically asked for a TLDR after, which he redid the entire speech to Mithy. But the basic point of the speech was that we're going to let you explore your options so that if you come back to G2, it's for the right reasons. And obviously G2 is still trying to put together this amazing roster. But now, especially with NA franchising, this is an all-star bot lane, and I'm sure if you're out there, maybe you're the Warriors, maybe you're TSM. You're looking at these guys saying, wow, we add these two pieces, and all of a sudden our team goes from, okay to amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, Sven and Mithy are guys who want to win.
Yes.
And that is obviously going to be one of the main reasons in where they choose to go. So yeah, they're not going to go to NA and go play on Echo Fox. I don't think they're going to want to do that. So yeah, I mean, if they're coming to NA, which I assume they would do, they're not going to go a different EU team. If they're going to stay in EU, why would you not stay on G2? That's probably going to be the best team going forward. I don't know if they have any idea who's going to be on that roster. Perks is staying, I'm sure. It sounds like they're trying to build around him for sure, which makes sense. So it's the top and jungle that are a question mark for them. So maybe Ocelot already has an idea of who he's looking for. I'm not sure if he's mentioned that to them. Because, I mean, if they get two not so good top and junglers, maybe they don't want to come back to G2.
Yeah.
But if they're going to NA, I mean, you're basically looking at, you're either going to one of these new teams, either NBA teams or Optic, and who knows how good they're going to be. That's a huge question mark, bigger than who's going to be top in jungle for G2. Or you go to TSM. And TSM wins domestically. You might have a better chance internationally on G2. I'm just saying, TSM's proven international. They're not that hot. And if they're going in that jungle, then or the bot lane, then you're going to have a question mark. Who's TSM get in the jungle?
Yeah.
Do you want Mithy over Doublelift? He is better, I would say.
Sven, yeah.
Sven. And now Mithy's a better idea.
Yeah.
So, a lot going on there. Those are two of the most coveted free agents from EU. So,
yeah, I mean, if they're going to stay in Europe, you got to imagine it's with G2 and no one else.
There's no reason.
There's no other option that makes more sense. You've been there for a while now. You have chemistry with Perks. I'm sure Ocelot's going to communicate with them pretty fully on who they're looking at going forward in terms of that top jungle position and be like, hey, we're acquiring this guy. You should definitely re-sign with us now.
And they'll go, ooh,
oh, wait,
no.
He's not good.
We got Lulex. You guys in?
Remember our sub that we played with in the week one?
Yeah, pretty good.
You guys won that game.
No.
Yeah. But, I mean, obviously that's an option, and I'm sure it's definitely going to be considered by these guys. But if you get an offer from TSM, and this whole TSM thing kind of started on a weird Reddit post where some guy, Tarzan, was like, yeah, I heard this might happen. It's like, why is someone telling you this?
You heard it in a local coffee shop down the street.
Yes.
So it's very legitimate sources. But yeah, I don't even call it a rumor. It's not even a rumor.
It's just speculation.
It's gobbledygoo. The gobbledygoo going around is Mike Young and then Sven and Mithy.
Right.
For TSM.
That's 3 people changing in TSM potentially.
That's a lot of changes, and I don't know if that's the solution for TSM.
I don't know.
I don't know. Mike Young, not really a shot caller, I don't think. And I mean, the new meme, one of the freshest memes for TSM is they break their junglers, right? They degrade them down slowly until they're just a ward. Happened with Santorin, amazing. And now Sven, aggressive guys become ward bots. And Mike Young was another pretty aggressive guy who's shown he can take over games. But when you come to TSM, hey, sit in that bush. Bjergsen's out of wards. Make sure he's not getting ganked. and if he's ganked, you're there. So I don't know if that's a solution to TSM. I know Mithy could come in and be a shot caller. I think the main thing for TSM is they got to get Bjergsen away from so much shot calling.
Yeah, and let him focus on going back to that, I'm going to crush mid lane, get these solo kills again, and take over. Because at Worlds, it's not what was going on. So maybe Sven and Mithy at TSM helps add a new shot caller in that bot lane. Because Mithy has been able to do that before. He's one of the better all-around supports that we've seen, at least in the West, in a long time. And then Sven is definitely not going to lose a step to Doublelift on the same scale, if not better. So it makes sense. And again, I just don't see those two guys going anywhere else in EU other than G2. So for me, it's G2 or TSM or one of these new rosters, depending on how it shapes up and what they can assure this old G2 bot lane going forward. So those are the options in my opinion. I don't really see much else.
Yeah, I mean, any of the other winning squads or upper echelon squads in NA, let's say C9 or CLG, they're not going to change those bot lanes. They're kind of staples of their organization, and guys like Sneaky and Afro. I'd like to imagine these teams aren't just going to drop those guys when, Sven and Myth are available. See you guys. These guys are basically the faces of those teams, or some of the faces. So those guys aren't moving, and I mean, who else is top at NA? Who knows? You don't know what any of these rosters are.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of question marks for Sven and Mithy, but you got to think wherever the best chance to win is where they'll go. And I feel like that's G2.
Yeah, and we're both under the assumption that these two guys stay together. Of course. That could potentially change.
Maybe they're not.
But
a twin deal.
Yeah, maybe they go separate directions. But that would be
so
pretty sad. They've been for so long together now. They jump from org to org with each other already. It would make sense to do it again, keep this top tier bot lane as a core unit.
I think if that's an option, a team wants that as well. So
I would assume you'd want it.
You instantly have that synergy. Of course.
Makes sense to me. So I don't know. G2, TSM, one of these new basketball teams. Optic. That's all
Liquid.
Liquid.
Yeah, you're not going to win with Liquid.
No, that might be a long-term
sorry.
thing.
Sorry, Daphne.
Anyways, let's get some questions. Let me boot up the old iPad here.
Yeah, boot it up. That was the old computer sound. Pretty good, huh?
It's not bad, Eric.
There's going to be a lot of rumors coming down the old pipeline in the next couple weeks, I imagine. As soon as Samsung upsets SKT, there's going to be a lot of rumors coming down after that, because I'm sure teams will be discussing a lot. Because they have like 2 months until spring split. And I imagine you want a couple of weeks to actually practice with your team before spring split starts.
You would think so.
I would think so.
Just 1 or 2, right?
Yeah.
With a brand new roster.
Couple days should be good.
Yeah, I think it's going to really start heating up end of November. All these guys signing left, right, center. Going to be very exciting. A lot of snapping.
A lot of snapping.
First question, Eric, for you.
Okay.
Philip wants to know, do you think SSG needs to ban Galio and other champs who can roam, so it's going to be harder for Faker to move faster on the map? I don't know about ban. It's going to be straight up who wins the champ select to actually get their hands on one of those guys, because it's not just Galio. It's the Talia as well. It's the Rise potentially. There's a lot of dudes who can just get around the map quickly. You even saw Shah who used Corki as an option coming out of base with the package. So there's a lot of champions who right now have a pretty good movement around the map and can take advantage of that. And it's also just a teleport mid-meta at times too. So even if you get rid of this Galio, Faker's going to find ways to affect the map. Of course, Galio's probably the best at that.
Yeah, but I think it's a matter of matching him. If he's if he's on this Galio, if he's on Talia, something like that, you got to get Crown on something similar. Yeah, at least have that teleport, which again, a lot of guys are running in that mid lane. It's just being able to keep up with his roams, not necessarily going to the same spot. If Faker goes top, go bottom, where you know there's an advantage for you guys where they can't answer. Because, yeah, the fact that Faker roams around so much and then he's still ahead, or at least at 10 CS a minute when he's roaming so much and influencing other lanes, is crazy.
It's nuts.
It's nuts.
So yeah, I don't know. I will expect Galio bans at some point in this series.
I would hope
it's going to come out right away.
I would hope so.
But it was banned quite a lot earlier in this tournament. Not so much in the semis, because obviously Faker got it 5 games in a row, and RJ was like, that's cool.
Yeah, the most important part about the finals is that champ select and who you're going to be playing, because that's going to heavily influence what your skin is for that championship. And SKT Galio, you really want that?
Yeah.
Nah, you could do a better one, Faker.
Yeah,
Play
figure it out.
Talia, sure.
I mean,
can you do the same champion?
The Talia skin could literally be a wall, and every time it comes out, there's like 4 SKT banners draped across it because they've won 4 championships.
Whoa, that's pretty nice.
It's pretty sick.
5 Talia games. Here we go.
Rat Hermy designs team.
Just the championship skin team.
Just,
you only work 2
just
weeks.
that one skin.
2 weeks a year.
Oh, it's not bad.
Not bad.
Philip Paul says, do you think any of the teams will have roster changes for next season? Fly's one he's looking at. I believe High will stay the same, but all the other teams seem up for change. Phil, there's going to be all kinds of change, my friend. TSM's going to have change. C9 might stay the same, but CLG's going to have change. I'm sure Liquid's going to have change.
I don't think a single roster in NA stays the same from this split across the board.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be a lot of changes. I don't think High should come back. I don't think High should come back. Sorry, High. One of the best NA players of all time. Be a coach.
I'd be concerned, man. You look at High's Twitter. He was handing out Halloween candy. And we know he has wrist issues from back in the day.
Oh, no.
And just all
Heavy amounts of candy?
Like full chocolate bars.
Oh, man. You
Someone keep a man down.
Stuff. You got to be careful with that stuff.
That's what I'm saying. It's pretty...
You got to hire someone to do that.
Yeah. So, yeah, Phil, there's going to be a lot more than just FlyQuest. FlyQuest will definitely get changed.
Definitely be changed.
Because they can't just throw that roster back out there.
I think everyone but Turtle on that squad. Maybe Moon.
Maybe Moon.
Sorry, old C9 boys.
Yeah.
You gots to go.
If you want to compete, you need to get some higher talent than that.
Fresh blood.
They'll probably be bringing in some imports. From
Wait.
where? I do not know. But there will be
Brazil?
imported. They are imports.
That's true.
Where's my boy White Lotus?
Oh my God, we haven't even talked about him. He's got to come into NAL.
Yeah, we forgot about him. That's we can't do that. That's not okay. SHA Chase. When TSM signs Sven and Mythic, what will be their excuse when they don't make it out of groups at Worlds? Well, that...
It'll probably be communication. Sven and Mithy's accents are too thick.
Yeah.
Mithy's our main shot caller, and I can't understand him. So that's a pretty good one. We've had a year of communicating, but I still don't know what he's saying.
They'll inevitably blame their new jungler, whoever it is, for not being aggressive enough.
Bot.
Yeah, man.
Because that's what the team told them to.
Those are 2 good excuses already. Man, they're not gonna make it out of groups again, huh?
No, they're not. And let's hope TSM qualifies for Worlds again. Am I right? It's going to be a stiff competition in the NLCS. I'm thinking they don't make that 11th straight final.
Well,
just saying.
In spring or in summer, we're talking.
Just saying. Well, spring.
Spring is always just a bonanza of stuff. These teams are still getting used to each other, especially now.
At least it matters a bit now.
Yeah.
With the points.
With the points. Yeah, it actually means something. Summer is still way more important.
Yes.
And it makes sense because usually the roster turnover is way more aggressive in spring than summer.
Yeah, when you realize, oh, wait, this roster sucks.
Yeah, let's restart.
So TSM will always have excuses ready for not getting out of groups. Although they didn't really this time. They just said we were bad.
That's a good excuse, I guess.
It's a fact, not really an excuse. So well, good for you guys.
Yeah. Michael Fung from Twitter, what skins would each player from either team choose for World Skins? They do get to say. So I know a lot of people already on Twitter are like, Crown Bitter choose Victor. Even though
you got to play the champion at the tournament to get the skin.
Well, who knows? Maybe I'll pull it up.
It should just be their most played. They don't get a say.
Maybe. I want some...
I don't even remember them all.
Some Samsung Malzahar for Crown.
Ugh, I don't want to play Malzahar.
That's unfortunate.
Let's see. I think Huni would go Jace or Gnar probably.
Yeah.
Cuve's getting the Kennen one for sure. Jungle.
Peanut would get it.
How do you pick? Peanut?
There's already a Fnatic Jarvan, so.
Gragas. No, already a Fnatic one, not for jungling. Sejuani, boys.
Hey.
Whoever's jungling, it's going to be a Sejuani.
It's going to be very upsetting for them, yeah.
Mid, it might be Talia.
Talia.
Either guy.
Or Miles or Lissandra, depending on what goes down. And then bot lane. Varus is there, Trist is there.
It's Trist for sure. Twitch or Kog'Maw probably.
Yeah, and then support. Janna.
No, I can't do
Janna's got Fnatic.
Can you not do them again?
Rakan or Lulu. I don't know if you can or not. They're going to run out of chance at some point.
Rakan would be cool.
Yeah, Rakan will probably get one. Fast and 08, do you guys think that 2015 Worlds was the most one-sided? I mean, yeah, it was got pretty boring once we got to the semis, at least.
That was the EU semis?
OG and Fnatic didn't stand too much of a chance.
Yeah, the knockout stage was very not interesting.
Yeah.
But, I mean, 2014, it wasn't super interesting. White just kind of demolished everyone.
There were some good games back in 2014.
I guess the C9, Samsung Blue.
C9 Blue was a good series, yeah.
I think OMG. Is it OMG and Starhorn?
I think
Royal?
that was 2014. Yeah, I think so.
They played it in the semis.
Yeah,
In all Chinese semis, and then Royal got bodied by Samsung.
This hurts my head.
2015 might have been the least exciting semis or knockout stage. Yeah.
This Worlds is insane.
This one's very hype.
This is a good one across the board.
Very hype.
Good stuff. Michael Funk, SKT will win because of Riot scripting, and which champs will get skins from the world champs? We get the skins. SKT will win because of Riot scripting. That's a bit of a conspiracy theory, though it's hard to disprove, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, I think Riot, if they were writing the scripts, they'd write it so TSM wins, no?
I don't know. I think if they're using the same script, it's getting pretty boring.
Yeah, they need to hire some new script writers.
Yeah.
Screenplay people.
That's what I'm saying. Mix it up.
Yeah.
Because we're getting bored of the movies, boys.
I don't know. I mean, this is what, the fourth one?
Yeah.
Most movies are definitely dead by the fourth one.
Yeah.
Usually don't make it to a fourth, so.
I don't know.
Except for Pokemon, those are endless.
If they do make it to a fourth, though, it's usually like, oh, Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull or whatever it's called.
Was that the fourth one?
I don't know.
It's usually 3. 3's your cutoff.
I think the first 3 Indiana Jones are still alright. The fourth one's just like,
that's the one with
why
Shia
are there
LaBeouf.
aliens and things?
And Shia LaBeouf. Why is he in the movie? Louis Stevens.
He really wanted to do it, man. You know.
He needed the money.
Yeah. Philip Paul, why do you think C9 did so much better than TSM and Immortals at Worlds?
Because they choked slightly less in the group stage. Still choked a bit, but we talked about it. They adapted in their best of, which actually made them look good. They had a strategy going in. Said strategy didn't work. You change your strategy. Whoa.
You're crazy, man.
Mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah. Also, the cards kind of fell in their favor to a certain degree because TSM also finished at 3-3, but they had a tiebreaker they would inevitably lose. Whereas, C9 got a bit of help. If they went to a tiebreaker against EDG, it probably would have been done so.
Yeah, EDG had won.
They won 2 games that week and looking really good
that week. Yeah. Well, they would have gone 3-0.
Yeah, they lost to
beat
AHQ.
SKT.
They beat SKT. No, they lost to SKT. Sorry.
That was the last.
AHQ
If they had
beat
beaten SKT, they would have been 3-0, and then they probably would have beaten C9. So yeah, C9 got a little lucky.
Yeah,
I still think they put up a better performance in the knockout stage than TSM would have, but a little bit of luck.
That's
Never
right.
hurt nobody.
Fast and Zuri 8 wants to know, do you see C9 being better than TSM at Spring? One thing about Spring is that it's always such a disaster, especially at the start, because these teams are trying to build their chemistry with each other. They're generally new rosters. I'm sure TSM is going to have a lot of change. C9, maybe not so much, so maybe they'll be better initially in Spring just because they're going to have more of their core unit together, I think.
Yeah,
I think Sneaky, Smoothie, Jensen contracts
probably only
going.
The top lane.
If they choose to, yeah.
And it might stay the same.
It could.
It might stay Impact. Maybe they feel like Ray has proven enough.
Yeah.
And he'll start. So it's probably only there that you're seeing anything different. TSM.
Whew.
I have no idea, man. It's going to be a totally different roster. So, yeah, I think C9 will look better and finish better in Spring.
At least
I don't think TSM is getting that 11th straight final. I think the streak ends Spring 2018. Yeah, that's what year we're in, right? Will be.
Yeah,
pretty futuristic,
like
man.
SHH Chase, what do you think about Sven and Mithy to H2K? Because it makes sense because their bot lane, well, more their AD carry was the weak link, I guess. Jay was pretty okay across the board. And then you got Febby, you got Yankos, you got Odo Omne. We were thinking about Yankos and Odo going to G2 for a while to form the EU Super Team.
I think I'd rather have Perks than Febivin.
They're both really solid mid laners, but yeah.
They were probably the best too throughout the split at times. I think I'd still slightly favor Perks. So bring the top half of H2K to G2. But I think EU's got to make a super team out of that combination of people. Either Febivin or Perks is getting the short end of the stick, and they're going to be on a substantially worse team than the other. But
I just don't see Sven and Mithy leaving G2 for another European org.
If they're staying in EU, why would you leave G2? You know it's a good organization. Seems like they've been treated pretty well. You're pretty close with Perks. Why would you leave?
Yeah. Wes wants to know, Do you think LoL Fantasy will become popular again after franchising? He thinks it will be pushed by the new owners, especially the NBA. And would you play it again? I might dabble. I mean, the old issue with LoL Fantasy was when the leagues started to make changes to each other, and then it just didn't make sense in the joint system that they had. I mean,
it blew up initially. Like the first split they had it, everyone was playing it.
Back in the best of ones.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I mean, maybe it could. I'm a little surprised it hasn't come back. Like, there's just not enough players to do only an NA one or only an EU.
It has to be joint. And again, when they were running the weird system where EU was this best of two that didn't play every week, and then no one drafted EU players because there was no point. They sometimes only played once a week. And then even when they were both best of threes, I'm pretty sure they only included the first two games because if one series went 3 and one went 2, you'd have very mismatched points, which I guess should play into it a little bit. But now that maybe they're both going back to best of ones, the fantasy might get pushed again because this is where it initially had success.
Maybe with the franchising, you can kind of combine the academy teams with them. So you could have them in like later round picks.
Yeah.
You just kind of have them both. I don't know
stash picks.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
I don't know what the scheduling is for those academy teams, when they play, how often they play. But I mean, if you're only taken from the 10 teams, you only got 50 players, depending on how many people are in that draft. That's not that many.
No. But it's crazy how quickly it died.
It was like one split. Or
because,
was it even a full year? I feel like it was just one split.
I mean, Riot Broadcast were pushing it, being like, this is what our fantasy league's doing. They had the Imagine Dragons on having teams, and Gordon Hayward had teams. It's like, oh man, this is
the
huge.
Next split, it was just...
And it's really because of the format that it died. So maybe
bring it
format,
back.
It comes to life again.
Bring it back. It was fun.
I'll get involved.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll pick
want to be in a league.
DeMonte first overall. My boy.
You moron. SHA Chase. LCK greater than LPL, greater than E, greater than NA, greater than LMS. Confirmed again?
I mean, I guess so. LMS was particularly duty.
Beat its SKT though.
That's true. So LMS.
LMS is the best.
LCK.
Yeah.
I mean, Korea clearly the best. LPL.
You can't not say they're second.
You can't not say they were second. EU got 2 teams out of groups. NA only got 1. EU was close to beating SKT and in a best of against RNG. Yeah, that's probably the order.
I mean, unfortunately.
Where's GPL though?
Yeah, where's GPL? Unfortunately, there's only so much you can go off of. There's literally one Worlds tournament that all the rankings based on the world are based off of. So, it's
Where do you rank Rift Rivals? The answer is nowhere.
Nowhere, yeah.
Right there. Right there.
I don't know.
Off screen.
If Phoenix won was at Worlds, they would have won.
They would have won Worlds?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not
Obviously.
arguing that.
You shouldn't. It's a foolproof argument. Phil wants to know, do you think we'll see Aurelion Sol played by Samsung? SKT never plays it, but still, his mobility and utility, he makes sense in the meta. He pulled it out last Worlds, I believe. Crown did.
It was banned in some of those games.
Yeah. So, I mean, Crown's shown he can play it. And again, to Phil's point, it doesn't make sense as one of those guys who can roam around the map and you just shove in that mid lane, see you later, go bugger off to one of those side lanes with the stars.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is his damage just won't crack anyone's health bar in this current meta with all these shields and these massive front lines. It's going to take a while for him to kill anyone with those orbs.
It can't be your main DPS source, that's for sure.
Of course, right.
It's going to have to be definitely backed up by something else. You saw when C9 played it, Sneaky was on Caitlyn doing tons of damage. Unfortunately, they couldn't close that game out when Jensen played Aurelion Sol.
Yeah, that would be an interesting pick. That there's definitely a lot worse ones you could be throwing out there in the mid lane. So.
It's not great against tanks.
No. Got to get that Leandries.
Yeah.
Got to get the Leandries.
So who knows, maybe if you last pick it and they have a squishy looking team.
Ooh, Aurelion Sol. That's the reaction.
That's exactly what they will say. Spooky Urgot Pro, do you support Immortals? I mean, we support them morally because we feel pretty bad.
But where's the jersey?
It's up there, over there, up Eric's head. They got demoted because they also got demoted out of League of Legends.
Oh.
But we still miss them. Goodbye. Team Liquid got the promotion even though they have done nothing in the league scene lately.
Yeah, I feel like Liquid still had more fans. I don't know. Immortals was getting more fans after this split. They were doing so well. They were growing a pretty solid fan base. A lot of likable guys on that team.
Yeah. Pobe,
the young Pobe, Smithy. nicest guy around. Cody, Sun, and Ole, the turnaround from the terrible spring. Great turnaround for them, and then good night.
Good night.
Almost get out of Worlds. So it is a shame that organization, because they burst onto the scene in League, had some star-studded rosters, put up some insane regular season records, and then just couldn't get it done in the playoffs. They couldn't get it done.
Tragic.
You'll still see, I'm going to say at least 4, maybe the entire roster of that Immortal squad in the LCS next split, unless they go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But
I'm with you. A few more questions, Eric, and then we'll get out of here.
Okay.
Philip wants to know which EU and NA players do you think will go to All-Star event. We're going to do a full All-Star show where we give you our NA and EU ballots, our craziest All-Star teams we can come up with too.
Yeah, we're
See
going to
what's
come up
kicking
with
around.
some of the worst ones
Yeah.
that we could think of.
So
Guys
if you
that
guys
are
want to
eligible.
screw around the voting, we'll tell you who to vote for.
Yeah. That's the way to do it. Vote in your boy, DeMonte.
So yeah, hold on to that thought, and we'll hit you up in a couple
I
of weeks.
will say, despite all the struggles from TSM, I bet you there's still some TSM guys going to All-Stars.
Oh, only 2 from a team can get it. So
Bet you there's 2 guys from TSM going to All-Stars.
I would.
That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I'll back you up on that. SHA Chase, will KT keep their roster? And if they do, will they finally win the LCK? Probably no. I don't think they're going to keep their roster. You can't have a super team that doesn't have success, not even top 3 in LCK, and then keep it.
Longzhu losing in quarters is one thing. KT, you're not at Worlds. 3 different opportunities to qualify for Worlds, and they lost every single one.
Oh.
Did you think I counted wrong?
No, just keep it nature. You got
3.
it. Yeah.
3. So yeah, they have so many talented players on that roster. I feel like there's, as unfair as it is, I mean, I feel like you put that roster again and they will make Worlds. They should make Worlds again, but the LCK is so insane. Maybe they wouldn't. But I don't think they're staying the same. I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Priscilla Taki asks, we're done with the SKT skins. Is there a way that Rack can rig it so that Samsung can win? I wish, pal. Because it's getting a little red on the Rift.
They don't need to rig it.
Samsung's just going to win straight up.
Samsung's just going to win 3-1.
That's what he thinks. But
That's
Eric, you've been wrong once or twice before.
Never. My perfect pick'ems
Yeah,
are still
he was the
perfect.
one guy. And
That's right.
even though they say it's broken,
No.
Eric did hits on paper, so
Yeah.
it doesn't count.
Wrote it on a whiteboard.
Nice. Straight over there, right, Eric?
Don't show it. Don't show it.
Oh, sorry. Nick4499, will there be new SKT skins? We'll see. I mean,
Tell you what, there's a 50-50 chance. It's going to be SKT or it's going to be Samsung.
yes, sir.
Wouldn't mind some Samsung ones, though.
Fast and 08, do you think Fnatic will change their roster?
I mean, I don't know who you'd get. The guys who I would get rid of, not even necessarily you have to get rid of, but the most movable are probably Jez's, and depends on if Soaz keeps playing.
He said he was going to play till he was 30 on Twitter. Probably joking, but who knows?
That's a lot of tilted Soaz to go.
Yeah.
That's how old? He's like 23?
Something like that.
He's been around since season 1. Guy's played
Yeah.
in like every world championship.
He has.
I mean, Reckless, you're not going to move unless he's done too. Caps and Broxa are still so young, and their ceiling is pretty high. They can still improve quite a bit, so there's no way you're moving those guys.
No, I mean, they can, but I think it more depends on the players choosing to leave rather than them actually making adjustments. Last 2 questions, Eric. Philip, what about Gilius in G2? Perks played with him in duo queue a lot. I think he can do better than Gilius. He's had a lot of experience.
That's not a super team.
In EU.
That's not a super team. He's kind of just the sub that comes in when a guy's visa isn't working. Gilius comes in, he'll put up a sick game, and then the next game he'll be like, oh yeah, he's a sub. So yeah, I think G2 is shooting. If you want to compete internationally, I think they got to shoot a little higher. No offense to Gilius.
No offense, but yeah, he's had time in the EOCS. We've seen him before. Hasn't always been.
He's
the best, but
super gifted mechanically.
Yeah.
Does some crazy plays on Lee Sin.
So who knows? Maybe someone gives him a shot and he stands out.
Maybe.
Last question. Philip Paul says, what are those red things on your clothes? Well, Phil, these are poppies. Hey, give them the full history on poppies.
A couple weeks before Remembrance Day, which is November 11th. I believe it's Veterans Day in the States. it is honoring veterans. So Remembrance Day is basically Veterans Day in America,
There
which
you
is
go.
November 11th. So you wear these a couple weeks before, and here we are.
And here we
Pretty
are.
nice, huh?
Yeah, it's very nice.
Pretty red. The red looks nice on camera, I'll tell you what.
It definitely brings out your eyes there. But that's not the point.
Don't have red eyes. So,
Yeah, but you know, that's okay. That's all we got. Anything else you want to say? Maybe, by the way, Splice also announced all their players are free agents, even though same deal last year. They all came back anyways.
might be time for a change there.
Maybe, unless they're feeling the same. New coach,
Maybe having an actual consistent coach
Yeah.
will help them out.
they already got someone in line, so we'll see.
Uh,
We'll see what goes down from there. But that's all we got today.
That's all we got today. We'll be back Monday.
We'll be back on Monday with a little Worlds recap, I suppose. Wrap it all up, put a bow on it, congratulate the winner, throw some confetti in the air.
And you know what? We'll probably have Poppy's on.
I don't believe you. Wow.
Hey, we
That's-
probably will. So buckle up for that.
All right, get ready, folks.
Yeah.
That's all the time we got for today on Friday 5 Live. That's Eric Kummel. Wait! What are we sitting on today, Eric? What's so comfy?
You know, now that you mention it, I have not been so comfortable in weeks. You know why that
Until
is?
Monday, last Monday.
Yeah, a week.
Yeah.
2
days.
Where I come from, it's only 2 days. But you know, I don't even know. Usually we sit here and do these shows, and I'm exhausted physically.
Yeah, I know. But not today.
Lately, I
because,
haven't been.
We're sitting on a DX Racer chair. Move your head. Show that logo. If you want one. They're very comfy. Not lying. Not making this stuff up. Go to dxracer.com. Put in that code. Shot callers. That's us. SHOTCALLERS. Gotta spell it out in case you can't read at home.
I don't know if you spelt that right.
I definitely
Yeah.
did. For 15% off.
15% off.
15.
It's
So,
pretty good.
you know, spend some of your paycheck. Spend some of your parents' money. Whatever.
That's a good thing to encourage.
Yeah.
The beauty is you can have a headrest and a lumbar support like Matt does here, or you can have nothing like me.
It's all up to you. Depends on how your lumbar is feeling.
My lumbar's feeling great without one. Matt's a little older. He needs that extra lumbar support. So
Lumbar.
to each their own, I say.
Well, that's what we're doing here. Customizable. Really comfy. Anyways, as I was saying, that's all the time we have.
That is what you were
I actually had a bit more time than I thought. Wow,
Yeah.
that's a little crazy, huh? That's all the time we have for 5 Live. Eric Kummel, Matt Hempstead. We will see you on Monday. Enjoy Worlds, everybody.